Support for this podcast comes from Certain Path Software. Certain Path Software is easy to implement in your business. It combines all the tools, systems, and features you need to run a profitable company of any size, from 500,000 up to 200 million. Certain Path Software is designed to make every step intuitive so you and your team can focus on serving customers. Pricing, invoicing, options, materials, job photos, financing, and more are combined into a single, easy-to-use interface. When technology makes the lives of your team easier, you know they'll be focused on what they do best. Discover how Certain Path's field app streamlines the steps your technicians take on each call. Go to www.mycertainpath.com today to learn more.
Welcome to The Successful Contractor, powered by Certain Path, formerly Success Group International, a show for residential contractors, about residential contractors. We chronicle business journeys, share insights, and celebrate successes in this wonderful industry. I'm your host, Bob Houchin. As a reminder, all episodes of The Successful Contractor are available on YouTube as well as your podcast player choice. And for more information on how Certain Path can put your contracting company on a certain path to success, visit our website, www.mycertainpath.com. I'm excited to bring to you an interview with Sean Mitchell, a comfort consultant, salesperson for CM Heating in Everett, Washington. In 2022, Sean sold by himself $8.64 million in residential replacement HVAC. If that number isn't staggering enough, he had an 88% closing ratio. For 70 minutes, Sean will tell you his story and explain his sales process, step by step. But before we dig into it, allow me a quick moment to say this. Sean's only been in HVAC sales for 2 years. All his training came from CM Heating and Certain Path. Sean's sales manager, Michael Pompeo, awesome guy who sold over $3 million a couple times. He was trained by Certain Path. I interviewed him in a previous episode a year or two ago. Please check that one out. Sean and Mitchell's sales trainer with Certain Path is our very own Esty Jacoby. Before she came to work with us, she worked for a member company. All her sales training came from Certain Path. Folks, we just got back from our Certain Path Awards Gala in Washington, D.C. Over 130 HVAC sales pros and techs were honored for selling over $1.5 million. 130. 40 of them sold over $3 million. 16 of them sold over $4 million. The Certain Path model and sales training works. So Certain Path members, if your people haven't gone to our sales training, what are you waiting for? I'm going to give you 70 minutes of Sean in a minute. But he learned the process over 2 days with us in a classroom. So please send your people if you haven't already. And if you have, send them again. Non-Certain Path members, what would your company look like with a couple of $4 million salespeople on staff? We can show you how to make that happen. In fact, our next profit day where we show non-members what the Certain Path system is all about is being held at CM Heating, Sean's company. May 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, depending upon your trade, we're having a profit day all 3 days. And when CM Heating started with Certain Path in 2018, its owners at the time, John and James, they were killing themselves to do $5 million in sales, working 15, 16-hour days, just killing themselves. Now, CM Heating does $40 million. Huge change in 5 years. And the quality of life for those two gentlemen, not even comparable. Life is fantastic. Please call 866-344-0789 to see how you can visit the CM Heating shop in Everett, Washington, tour the facilities, talk to their people, and attend a profit day to get real information on how you can immediately improve your business. By the way, only 14 seats exist per day, so please don't wait. Okay, that's enough selling for me for one day. I appreciate your patience. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Sean Mitchell, the $8.64 million man from CM Heating in Everett, Washington. I hope you enjoy our conversation and take away a nugget or two.
Sean, thank you so much for sitting with me today. I greatly appreciate it. For those who haven't had a chance to meet you yet, can you share your name, your company name, and where you guys are located?
My name is Sean Mitchell, and I'm with CM Heating. We're located in Everett, Washington, and we specialize, our focus primarily has been HVAC, and then we also do electrical.
Very good, very good. We're talking for a great reason. You had just a phenomenal year last year in terms of sales. You're a comfort advisor with CM Heating. Share with everyone the ridiculous number you did in terms of sales last year.
You know what? I try not to think about it too much because I'm always thinking about the next step, but I believe it was a little over 8 million.
Yeah, I think it was a lot. I think it was 8.6 or something like that.
Yeah.
The official number. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
But I've interviewed one guy that did $7 million a few years ago. This is the first time I've sat with anyone at 8 in, well, it's 20 years. So it's pretty impressive. Saying you had a great year. So well done. We're going to get into your sales process and how you talk to people and do what you do on a daily basis. Before we get into that, I love to hear people's story, learn where they came from. So how about you? What's your background? What did you do before HVAC?
Before HVAC, I actually worked as a assistant director at the University of Washington. So my alma mater, Foster School of Business. And prior to that, how I got acquainted with CM Heating, I actually worked at King 5, and I was responsible for marketing there. And CM Heating was one of the accounts that I was responsible to. And then I was able to form a really, really strong bond, a great relationship with John, the owner of CM Heating.
Yeah.
And then the rest is history.
Holy cow. So how long have you been with CM?
I have been with CM now just a little over 2 years.
2 years. And you really no sales experience beforehand?
Oh, well, I did have sales experience. So that, how far back do we want to? All right. Okay. Well, it all started out when I was 19. I just decided, hey, listen, I want to make as much money as possible because I had just right off the cusp of, an experience where I was going to college for about a year. But prior to that, for the last year of high school, I was homeless. So I knew what it was like to wake up in the middle of the night with a empty stomach and to not be able to sleep because I was so hungry. And I know what it was like to open up the refrigerator, not seeing anything in the refrigerator but empty McDonald's ketchup packets and feeling tempted just to have my go with that, And, there's with that experience that I had, it just propelled a certain drive within me. And I wanted to make sure that I'd never put myself in an experience like that again.
Yeah.
I'm giving you the short of it. And what happened was I decided, okay, well, I'm in college right now. How can I make as much money as possible?
Sure.
And I tried my hand at car sales. And quickly, with almost instantaneously, I became the top seller. And when I was looking at, funny enough, when I'm looking at the credit applications, I'm seeing how much money the folks that I'm working with are, will just say, just the income.
Sure.
And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've made that in the past 5 months. I think that I should stay here and not go back to college.
Why?
So, long story short, at this point now, we're accelerating a few years. I'm a manager for a Toyota dealership. And I get a phone call from my dad. And my dad says, Sean, I know that you've noticed something different in the way that I've been communicating, because it would sound as though he was slurring his words. Now, my biological father are incredibly articulate, man. And, I was concerned about it, but I just didn't really know what it was. He says, Sean, I have to tell you, told me he had Lou Gehrig's, ALS. And this was one of the last conversations we actually ever had. And before the end of the call, he said, Sean, I want you to finish your degree. It's not that you won't be successful without it. It's just that with it, I believe that it'll impact the way that you see yourself and the way that others sees you. And so I said, Dad, I promise you, I'm going to finish the degree.
Yeah.
That right there was one of the last conversations I had with him. Shortly thereafter, I get a phone call from my sister saying, hey, Sean, Dad's gone. So up until this point, I had experience in sales. And then when I went to school or finished the degree, it was focused more on marketing and operations management and so on.
Yeah.
And so, then now let's time jump. I'm, working at CM Heating. I'm brought on as a business development director. So I'm responsible, before I went into consulting, which is a very important part of the story here. I was responsible for our CSRs. So I was the manager of the CSR department. I was responsible for our marketing, and I was responsible for the sales department. So I was responsible for those 3 departments. And then after the first year, I just decided, you know what? I think that there's a greater opportunity that can be realized as a sales consultant. Now, the thing that we make a mistake with in terms of our perspective, many college students is, well, in order to have the income that I want or to have the respect that I want, I need to make sure that I'm working for a Fortune 500 company or some, we call it the big five in terms, or the big four in terms of the consulting companies and so on and so forth.
Sure.
But I felt like this industry, after being a part of it for a year, I felt like the home services industry as a whole, whether it be roofing, electrical, what have you, I felt like it really did not get the respect they truly deserved.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make a statement.
Yeah.
So I decided to, it wasn't a fun conversation by any stretch of the imagination. But I sat down with the two owners, James and John. They're both mentors for me throughout as I continue through my consulting experience here. I just told them, hey, listen, I think that I want to serve a different way. Yeah. And I believe that as a consultant, I believe that I could make even more impact in, rather than leading the charge, exact conversation, rather than leading the charge from the back, I'd rather lead the charge from the front.
Interesting. They said,
well, we, I want you to think about it long and hard, and then I did, and because I caught COVID.
Oh,
so I had an extra 2 weeks to think about it. Yeah. So I thought about it, and I came back. Now, here's the thing. Okay. While I was a sales manager, the reason why I was thinking about this is because certain path, you have a model. This model, for me, it's what I cut my teeth on.
Yeah.
John showed me, and I was nervous because I was responsible for leading a team. So I felt a little bit like an imposter.
Oh,
this is why.
Sure.
Because I'm leading a sales team, yet I have no actual sales experience that translates directly to HVAC.
Sure.
And I'm over here giving insights and so on and so forth. And I always question whether or not it was resonating. What happened is I started going on calls with the sales guys.
Okay.
And at that time, it was all sales guys. So I'm using that term correctly. Okay. And I would go on calls, and every time we would go on calls, we would close 100% of the people that we were working with.
Yeah.
I'm like, so, okay, this is the process. What are you missing? Now, before I had the confidence, Bob, to go on the calls with them, what I would do on my spare time during the weekends is I committed to learning exactly what my sales folks were experiencing. Therefore, on Saturdays, I would become a sales consultant. And I ran calls for about a month and a half. And in looking at my numbers, I'm thinking, okay, I think that I have a little bit of a story that I could tell here. I think that there's some insights that we can share. Yeah. And from that point on, we would go on calls whenever the sales team would maybe anyone on the sales team might experience a bit of a decline with performance. Okay, let's hop in the car. We're going to go on a ride, and we're just going to see what we can figure out, what we can extrapolate with the way that you're doing your consultations.
Yeah.
And what happened is every time it would be 4 out of 4, 3 out of 3, and it got to the point though, and this is the embarrassing part. It got to the point where when I would report these numbers in our manager meetings, John would literally look at me and say, okay, I get it, but was it because you were in the car? Right? So like, you're helping them, but I mean, how much is this going to stick? It did stick, for many of them. But long story short, I just looked at it and I decided that it would be better for me to literally see what could happen if I worked as hard as I was working as a manager, as a sales consultant.
That's very. Do you remember what was your closing percentage last year? Off the top of your head, because it was high. I remember John talking to me, and it was
high 80s, maybe low 90s.
That's crazy. That's fantastic. I mean, this is a blend of marketed and tech set leads.
Yes. Yep. Yep, for sure.
Man, that's great. Well, that's a very neat story, and it's very enjoyable. So let's get into a little bit on what you do to be so successful.
Thank you.
Let's start with you're going to the call. You get maybe call center gives you a little bit of information. How do you get ready for the call mentally? What information you take from the call center to help you? What's your process?
Process is this. First thing is I have a mentality where I need to be the first Kia on the road and I need to be the last Kia off the road.
Okay.
And the first thing that I do is I set up by getting all of the information for the calls. And then even though we have the heat load calculations that are in an Excel spreadsheet, I like to fill them out manually. This is my particular religious ceremony and my ritual, where I like to find out exactly what I have ahead of me that day. I don't like the idea of going in and just being surprised. I want to know exactly what's happening. And then I take that information. For example, what I will collect is the date that the house was built. I'll collect the square footage. And then I'll also just collect just some information about how many bedrooms and so on and so forth, right? Okay. And then what that does is it kind of gets me a highlight, a preview of what's going to happen. I believe this is necessary because it sets my energy up in a way where I'm not worried about anything. I've properly set expectations within myself, right? Another thing that I'll do is while I'm looking at that information, I'll look and I'll see exactly what the expectations are with that call. Sometimes I'll even listen to it ahead of time just so that I can make sure that I'm matching my energy with the energy of the person that's on the other line, right? And the reason why is because I also run a high level of calls, right? So if I'm doing 3 to 4 calls a day, full calls where I'm with each customer, like maybe around 2 to 2.5, sometimes 3 hours. Yeah. I just want to make sure that anything I could do to set the expectation of the amount of energy that needs to be expended is done. That's incredibly necessary. Yeah. And so then, following that, if I have any questions, I'll have the questions with whoever took the call, but normally I don't have any questions because I'm listening to the call. Right. And then from there, I hop in the Kia.
Wow. And so is this the morning?
This is the morning, yeah. So if the first call, right, is at 8 o'clock, then I'm at the office at 6 o'clock. And I get angry for sure if there's a Kia that's there before I'm there, right? And the reason why is because I believe that we all have different innate gifts and talents and skills because of the amount of time and energy that we put into committing ourselves to a particular craft. However, every person has the right to get to a point where they say, I am the hardest worker. And I wanted to make sure everybody knew that I am the hardest worker. Yeah. But the thing is, I needed to make sure that I wasn't only the hardest worker, I needed to make sure that I was the smartest worker as well. And I felt that that would be a very dangerous combination.
Where does it come from? Where does that drive?
I don't think that being hungry like I was in my senior year in high school hurt. Yeah. But I can say that I just always been hyper competitive. But my main thing is I believe that we are going to live this life one time. Yeah. And if it's true, right, Bob? If it's true that we only have one life, we don't have 9 lives. If it's true, then why not maximize the one that we have?
Okay. Yeah, that's your...
You see that? I just had to hold back because I got so much work.
That's preaching there. Yeah, you start rolling. Yeah, that's cool. All right. Well, so very good. So you had your whole kind of plan based on the work that you did before you start getting in your key to go to calls.
That's correct.
You did your homework. Let's go to the first call. So you know what you're coming into. You get out of the Kia. Yeah. They knock on the door. You hopefully open the door, and they greet you, and they invite you.
But it actually a step before that, if you don't mind, okay? Yeah. The first thing is this. Before starting, I knew that I needed to grade every single portion of my call. I refused to just look at this like this is just a regular moment in the day. Yeah. What do I mean by that? We're all loving the time that the Olympics comes around. And I thought to myself, what would it look like? Well, there's 2 things, Bob, that I have to tell you. This key here. Yeah. The first thing here on this point with the Olympics, I pretended as though, even though I'm nowhere near as flexible, I pretended that I was a gymnast. Because if you ever watch the gymnasts in the Olympics, they're grading how they did their somersaults. They're grading how they mounted the thing. They're grading how they landed. It's not just, oh, I got the deal close. So what I'm thinking is, well, what are the steps? Okay. So the steps are, there's going to be the phone call, right? And then after the phone call, there's meeting at the door. And there's the transition from meeting at the door when they say that they wanted you to go straight into the garage to convincing them to sitting down so that you can go over some of the expectations. It's going over the expectations and then transitioning to either going into the heat load calculation or going into the collection of the data, right? Is going from the collection of the data to then centralizing and triangulating back at the table and then, committing towards, the next layer of the project, right? Which is going to be setting the appointment and so on. And then after that, there's actually another step. It's how do I leave the home? Do I leave the home in such a way that they know that I'm committed? Because if they think that I was just there to get the close and leave, well, there's a higher likelihood that that deal's going to cancel, right? So I would look at it, and then what I would do, Bob, is I'm talking to you about like how the forefront of my thinking and then the background of my thinking. What I mean by the forefront of my thinking is I would think about it such that how can I run this call so that I'm intentional about every single part. So with that being said, the first part, every time I would pick up the phone,
So you call.
smile. Oh yeah. I would never, ever have the office call on my behalf. And honestly, anyone that advocates for that, I would ask them to question their intentions there. Because at the end of the day, well, you understand, they have a nice voice and it seems more professional and blah, blah.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's you that is going to serve this customer in such a way where you're able to get enough trust to leave with $30,000. Right. And if you don't think that that's a significant enough reason to make the phone call yourself, then what's going on here? Just what are your intentions? Right. Is it fear-based because you're nervous? But I will tell you what you're missing out on if you don't make that call.
Yeah. So what do you say during that phone call?
Yep. And is it okay if I tell you this is what happens if you don't make that phone call?
Go ahead.
If you don't make that phone call, Bob, then you don't know what kind of energy your customer is going to have. You don't know what you're walking into at 8 o'clock in the morning. You don't know who's going to be there. Right? You don't know if it's going to be, just the husband, the wife. Is it going to be, the mother-in-law because everyone's at work? You need to be able to set certain expectations. And the other thing is that you don't know what their expectations are for the time of the appointment. You have to well, just hurry up, make it quick. Whoa, well, you know what? I'm glad that you said that. Right? So you're missing out on an opportunity to build a relationship. But with that phone call, what I would do is I would make sure that I'm smiling, that I bring great energy such that they're excited. They're excited to have me walk in the door. Yeah. And then that right there, you know how they say your first impressions are everything?
Yeah.
I consider that to be my first impression.
Very interesting. So what do you say? Is it just how's your day today? Do you have any little questions you asked him when you call?
Well, what I do is hey, is this Bob?
Yes, it is.
Hey, Bob, this is Sean with CM Heating. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Sean. How are you?
Good. Well, just wanted to give you a quick call to let you know that I am actually en route heading your way.
Okay, very good.
And I should be there in no more than about 20 minutes.
Excellent. We're waiting for it.
Okay, see you soon, Bob. Bye.
Good. So then, good in it.
Exactly, right? And then also, I would never say that I'm going to be there. If I'm saying that I'm there in 20 minutes, I'm actually there in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Watch this. I want to make sure that I let you know.
Yeah.
So they say that it's death. You heard the term death by 1,000 cuts, right? Absolutely. I say life by 1,000 cares. So you do 1,000 things right, you might get the life, the deal closed, whatever you're looking for at the end that would bring life to your purpose, which would be having this customer understand that they're making the right decision by going with us, right? I want to make sure that I major in the minors, okay? And so by majoring in the minors, what does that look like? I told them that I'm going to be there in 20 minutes. Well, I just showed up in 10 minutes. I think that I just exceeded expectations. Wouldn't you say so? So little things like that.
Okay, very good. All right, so fast forward, you get out of your car. Again, you knock on the door, they let you in, and all of a sudden we start with a conversation. What do you do to break the ice even more so? Is it looking for the sincere compliments we talk about? What do you like to do?
Bob, I have to tell you, there's a step before that.
Oh, okay.
I have to tell you,
I like it.
Yeah, there's a step before that because there has not been one time that I was excited to get out of the car to knock on the customer's door. There has not been one time, unless it was a family friend or a friend that I was working with.
Sure.
The first thing that I do is I sit in the car and, okay, so it's 2 hours from now. Just close this customer. Why did I close this customer? And I'm doing this actually while I'm driving. Okay, I closed this customer because I was intentional. I'll make up a story.
Yeah.
I closed this customer, Bob, because I listened. I didn't speak over them, and I built a friendship, a genuine friendship. And oh man, it feels so good. They're happy. We have a great friendship. And now I'm leaving and I'm going on to my next. And so what would happen is now I'm convinced that deal's already closed.
Yeah.
my energy, my momentum, it's already done, right? Regardless of anything that's thrown at me. That's the most important step.
Right.
That, Bob, is the most important step, because if you're not convinced, then it's hard to convince somebody else. That being said, now that we're in the home, I'm definitely going to start out with some small talk, and the other thing is I refuse to wear a larger jacket or anything like that when I walk in. Even if it's cold out, I would wear something that's a little bit form-fitting, because if you're working with someone that's maybe not the same height as you are, or maybe it's a single, maybe widow, or whatever the case may be, it's important to make sure that you're coming across as like, least threatening. So once I come into the home, then it's all about centralizing to one place where we can have some more conversation.
Okay. And you asked, is there somewhere we can sit down?
Yes.
And talk?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And how does it? Will you stand in the doorway for an hour if someone wants to, or and near then have that conversation, or are you trying to sit down right away and then have it more casually?
So, Bob, you came in. Oh, I'm gonna go take you to the garage, right? Okay, perfect. Well, now before we do some of the data collections, just one of the things that I just want to make sure that we're able to do is just make sure that we're able to set expectations. So, do you have maybe a home base we can circle up at?
Okay, and that's how you steer it then.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, about our kitchen table. Does that sound good? Yeah. Oh, no, leave your shoes on, Sean. No, I'll put my footies on. It's important for me to, just protect your house. I'm outside all the time.
Sure. So what's the conversation look like at that point? Sometimes we talk about like credibility statement. Does that something do up front? Like, I've been doing this for X amount of years, or I've worked with so many homeowners, or do you have more open-ended questions to see about what they expect from the project?
First thing I do is make sure wherever I can establish common ground, I establish common ground so they understand my energy and they understand my intention, right? And then after that, to your point, which is super important, it's all about the way that you project, and it's about your level of confidence. So, Bob, just to kind of give you a little bit of the lay of the land here, what we're going to do is we're just going to start out with some of the expectations that you should have from us. Okay. Following that, I'm excited to hear a little bit more about your expectations. And what I mean by that is just simply where you are right now in terms of comfort, and then, of course, where you'd like to be. So then that way, together, we're building a solution that'll bridge the gap. And as you're probably well familiar with, one of the biggest issues that's faced nationwide when it comes to the installation of new heating and cooling equipment is the improper sizing of the equipment. So with your permission, what I'm going to do is just simply walk the perimeter of your home, measuring windows and doors and such, just to kind of get an idea of the personality of your home, right? And the whole idea here is, when it's really hot, cool escapes, and when it's really cold, heat escapes. So essentially, by doing this heat load calculation, it ensures that we have everything that we need from a BTU, British thermal unit perspective, how we measure each unit of heat. And then following that, what I'll do, of course, just do some simple measurements. With your permission, I'll take some pictures of, the thermostat and so on. And then once we're all, kind of set there, we'll just circle back and just kind of look at some of the options that we were able to customize together. And then we'll see where you'd like to go from there. Fair enough?
So you plant the seed about improper installations early.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, and as well, with everything that I did right there, I just set authority. And what I mean by set authority is I let them know that I came to their home respectfully, that I have a plan of action. And also with the way that I use my inflections, every little bit that I did right there, all calculating. Yeah. Right? You don't just, so what we're going to do, we're going to go to sleep. Yeah, for sure. I am going to beat that coffee.
Right. Very good. And how much are you paying attention to body language? I know you did the homework beforehand to see what kind of person you're dealing with. Is that really direct how you communicate? If they're softer, you'll be a little softer, or you stay the same?
Bob, I love you so much right now. I have to tell you right now, because I was able to join while I was a manager. I was able to join a certain path. I joined certain path in terms of an expo. It was in 2021. Right. So I was there. I believe it may have been in Dallas. Don't hold me to that.
That's right.
But one of the things that happened is there's someone, I hope that he's here again today, with this but he was talking about body language and what's a mirror. And honestly, that was a huge success. So you asked me, do I pay attention to body language? Yeah. Absolutely. Everything in my mind is 100% for certain a calculation. Yeah. I'm looking at whether they're hunched over. I'm looking at whether or not their attention is drawn to anything else. I'm listening to their inflections. I'm listening to the rhythm of their tone. I'm listening and I'm dissecting every little bit of the information I can gather to find out exactly what I need to be for that individual.
Yeah, very good, very good. And then you just know how to adapt to that. I guess like if someone that is leaning forward, you know they're interested, right? But if someone's distracted, what do you do if someone's distracted?
There's several things. So let's just, first and foremost, right now, during this interview, you and I are positioned directly across. I, as a rule, would never allow myself to be positioned in such a way if it's a male. What I'm going to do, if it's a male, and this is from the information that I learned at Certain Path, I'm going to sit alongside, because with men, we need to be collaborating towards the same aim. However, according to the information that I received last time, with women, they need to be able to see you. You need to look them directly in the eye. And so I would make sure that I position myself at the kitchen table in such a way where I'm coming alongside the male, right? And so that's one. Now, the other thing is you have to pay attention to the way that they're communicating. Here's for instance, you're working with a lady, and I was working with one lady, and as I'm speaking to her, she's, yeah, okay, yep, okay. And I'm like, so what we're going to do, oh, okay, and yeah, oh, yep, that's fine, yep, okay, and what in the world is going on right now? And I'm like, why is she going so fast? And so the natural instinct would be to try to speed up, right?
Yeah.
But I realized why. So you have to ask why. So the reason why she's speaking like this, Bob, is because she's nervous. She's alone in her home with a stranger. What's going on? So at that moment, the other thing that we're going to do here, just to make sure that we have all of our I's dotted and T's crossed, Pam, I'm going to, with your permission, walk the perimeter of your home. Literally, you watch her start to relax, right? If you're working with someone that is more lethargic and you think they're going to fall asleep on you, well, now you need to be a little bit more animated, right? But again, I believe, Bob, that every single deal can be closed. Every single deal. And if it wasn't closed, then it's because I missed something. It's important as a consultant that I take responsibility for that. That every month you should be better and build, because you have to set yourself. It's okay. Am I getting too passionate?
No.
Okay, Bob, here's the thing. You have this is what I did. I decided that because of the Certain Path model, because of everything that you have, if it's true, if this thing really works, then I need to freaking work it, right? Yeah. Because it'll work if I work it, right? Yeah. So then what I thought is, okay, well, how can I literally, Microsoft has one, Amazon has one, Facebook has one. They all have algorithms, Bob. They all have algorithms. So what if I had the mentality where I'm going to turn myself into a machine? I become an algorithm. Yeah. I find out the best way to approach situations. I take that worked, this didn't work, all the way to the point where by the end of the year, I should be closing in the high 90s, because I'm taking information and I'm being incredibly intentional every single step of the way.
But yeah, so you're very focused, cued in on every little thing they say, every way they lean, every way, all of it. And it alters how you address it.
I'm telling you, another thing that is going to be incredibly valuable for whoever's watching this, the dogs.
Oh, okay. Do little dog biscuits in the pocket?
Never. Because if you bring something like that, now you are putting yourself at risk. You're exposing yourself to having the customer irritated because you don't know if the customer wants you to have that. And then are you trying to assert some sort of dominance here? You have no idea the level of security or insecurity your customer is dealing with. It's best to just not even set yourself up for that. Definitely never that. But I make sure that I understand that dogs read energy just like people read energy, right? They see. So if there's a dog that's in the crate barking, like, oh my gosh, sorry, Cody, please, put them, please, no offense if your name is Cody. So, yeah, it's a great name. Yeah. So then what happens is I just say, hey, you know what? Can you just let him out? Will you please just let him out? I love dogs. Yeah. It would just be great. Like, no, are you sure? Yeah, for sure. So then they'll let their dog out. Cody comes over, he sniffs me, I pet him, he goes crazy for like maybe 2 minutes, but then he goes in his little corner and he sits down, he's chilling. So now what just happened? I took 2 minutes, I invested 2 minutes to build a relationship with Cody, and now guess what Bob is doing? Bob is thinking about me now. Bob is thinking about himself. And now I have clarity with the information that I'm providing. Does that increase or decrease my potential to close out?
You're right, to not distracted by the barking and apologizing or actually was. Yep, that's really good. That's good.
Support for this podcast comes from Home Depot Pro Trades. At the Home Depot Pro Trades, our job is helping you do yours. Powered by HD Supply, we are uniquely positioned to help drive your business through unrivaled access to professional-grade plumbing, electrical, and HVAC products, and innovative business solutions such as our Stockwise inventory management program, fully customizable to meet your needs and improve productivity. Our national network of distribution centers and more than 2,200 store locations provide national reach with a local focus, giving unmatched convenience and product availability. We power pros to do more.
You use our comfort survey. It's basically, I think there's like 17 questions deep, a certain path one. Do you use it, or is it just yourself?
I refuse to not do that first.
Okay.
And here's the reason why, Bob, because I am fiercely under the belief everyone should run the play a certain way. Anyway, well, you do it this way and that way, but then you have too many inconsistencies, too many irregularities. And most people, from my experience, that change the process, they're doing it because they're looking for the path of least resistance, right? Here's the reason why the comfort survey is so important. The reason why the comfort survey is so important is because what does it do? What it does, in my experience, is it tells the customer that you care. So you're not just asking these questions because you're trying to just get some information. When I sit down with you, I reordered the comfort survey questions.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. I reordered them because the first question that I want to ask is, okay, so now, does anyone in the home here suffer from allergies, asthma, or cold problems? Okay, perfect. Now, also, what have you been experiencing with regards to any hot or cold spots in the home? When I'm asking those questions, rather than starting out with, let me see, so there's the age of the home, what's that? It's like it's a doctor's appointment. I didn't want to go to the doctor today,
Right.
And I already have that information because I set myself apart because I did the research. So now I'm confirming with them with the ELO calculation, right? So the reason why I'm saying this, is because now when I'm saying that I wanted to get to know you, when I'm building a relationship with you, Bob, I want to make sure that I'm asking questions from you, right? So you know that I'm interested. If I don't go through the comfort survey, then I lose the opportunity to build relationships.
Interesting. How does the answers affect how you're going to present your options later on? Like, for example, someone says they're only going to be at the home for another year or two.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to offer the premium, system, or does that not affect how you build it up?
Again, so great question. It depends. So, you're only going to be in the home for 2 years. Okay, so now, nice. Tell me a little bit more about that, Bob.
Oh, I think I might be leaving the area or something, something like that.
Yep. Okay, perfect. So now what I'm doing is I'm looking at you, I'm thinking, okay, what the heck is happening right now? And no, this is good. I'm not thrown off, but I'm thinking, okay, what does Bob want? Okay, so he's going to be in the home for 2 years.
Yeah.
And what's the state for these next 2 years? Does he have someone in the home that has a physical ailment and they need to make sure that they have a certain level of comfort? When he sells this home, what kind of value proposition is he going to want to have? Is he going to want to have a value proposition saying, hey, I have premium quality this, premium quality that? Of course, now, since I know he's going to be leaving, one of the things that I can tell him is about our warranties and the warranties that transfer over. So now he understands that I'm on his side and we have an even bigger value proposition because, hey, look, now you're going to be able to sell this home with a warranty that's going to transfer over as well. But the biggest thing is, how are they planning on paying for this?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when I ask these questions, okay, now is this going to be a home that we're looking at, financing or just writing a check?
She asked earlier.
Is this a project that we're looking at financing or writing a check for?
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to get mad because you were trying to find that out? Right?
Yep.
And yeah, for sure, I'm going to ask that question. Now, before I've gone through that, I've done the unbeatable promises. Right, I coined it unbeatable promises, right? And that's essentially where we talk about who we are. It talks about the guarantees, the warranties, and all those things. So by that point, they do know that we have financing options, right? Now, here's the thing: if they say it depends, well, now I understand that I understand how to position it. Because if it depends, it's likely that this person, if they have the option to pay cash, they're going to really appreciate the concept of 0% financing. And so now it's just, how am I going to leverage this? How can I, get a read on this person? And then of course you have the people where they're like, let's not pay cash.
Yeah.
They look at their wife like, like, perfect. Great to know.
Yeah. Would you, say you bring up the allergy question and I go, yeah, I really do suffer from seasonal allergies. Do you start talking about some of the IFU stuff at that point, or does that come later on? And same thing like with the warranties. You said, okay, yeah, the warranties are changeable and blah, blah, blah. Or do you not selling at that point? Or
every part of the process is a sell. If you don't think of it that way, then you're missing out. Every single part. And what do you mean sell? Every part, all selling is guiding them to the decision. So every single part, you're guiding them to the decision. So when they're asked, when I'm asking them, hey, so does anyone in the home here suffer from allergies, asthma, or cold problems? Yeah, my daughter. The first thing that I'm going to do is like, yeah, when I was 10, I was actually diagnosed with asthma. I've been able to kind of work through it, but I definitely know what it's like to kind of be in that place where, it feels like your lungs are kind of closing up. So the reason why I bring that up, Bob, is because, I don't know if you're interested as we kind of customize these options together. I don't know, if indoor air quality is something that you were looking for. Can you kind of speak to that for me?
sure, I don't know anything about it, but yeah, maybe that'd be
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's, you know what? I'm a little bit of a nerd, right? I always say, by the way, that's a big point. I'm a little bit of a nerd, a little bit of self-deprecation and permission at the same time. I'm a little bit of a nerd. So, I mean, if it's okay, I'd love to kind of just talk to you a little bit about that. You see my hands?
Yeah.
Again, everything is calculated. There's no misstep, right? There's no, oh, I wonder what happened. No, I know what happened, right? So then they're like, oh yeah, tell me more. Okay, well, you have the air scrubber and the air ranger. And then I go into that, right? For the purposes of this conversation.
Yeah, I don't need to know that. Do you have a personal story for each one of those questions? Like if they based on their answer? I mean, like the allergy one is an example. They need some of those other questions. You can get on common ground.
The best part is what most people do. I don't necessarily, in the stories will come, if you're going to be, if you're going to go with the flow with anything, just let it be how you connect with your customer, because a story that I might tell to resonate with Frank isn't the same story that I would tell to resonate with Lee Chan, right? Like there's different stories. So based on what I'm seeing, that's going to be where I take those stories and how long I let those stories continue.
Were those just, did that something that you practiced, these stories, and you have them in the bank? Or is this something that just comes up?
Every single person, this is an excellent question. Because every single person has a story. Do you have a home that you live in? Do you have an experience that you've had there? Do you, or anyone in your family have any allergies? Yeah, you know what? My mom has that. I totally understand. That's what we're doing, is we're relating so that we can build relationship.
Sure.
And it's very hard to say no to a friend.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. So you go through these questions. The next is do you measurements? Do you love to have the homeowner go with you as you do it?
Bob, I love you, man. I love that, brother. Yes, I love having the homeowner with me. Yeah. Now, I will tell you that there's two sides of that story. If the homeowner isn't with me, I appreciate that too, but I don't love that. Yeah. I appreciate that too, because now I can work even more efficiently. I'm a high volume closer, and I want to make sure that I have enough time to get to my next one. Right. So if they're not there, then I'm just going to speed up the process even more. Yeah. But if they're there, well, now all of a sudden they get to see me do the measurements, right? Okay, so here we are, and what we're looking at right now is a downflow 80% efficient B cabinet furnace. And what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be blah, 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 right? And I'm filming this. Now, one of the things that the homeowner said, oh yeah, I'm filming this. And now one of the things that, our homeowner said is that they're looking for such and such and such. And then by the time I'm done, I stop and like, how was that? Yeah, that was good. Because the biggest thing, okay, is important to understand that you are an entertainer.
Yeah.
You're on stage the moment they answer the phone call. You're an entertainer the whole way through. What is entertainer? This is not to say that we're here to beguile anybody.
Sure.
This is to say, I understand that every moment of your time needs to have value. And I'm going to make sure that anything that I could do to keep you engaged, anything that I could do to translate the information, I'm going to do that, and I'm not going to miss a step.
Very good. Very good. So this whole time, are you asking other questions of them? I mean, you said you're doing the recording, right, of the system, but as you're measuring, do you measure windows in the room? Like, what's the conversation like?
Definitely not when I'm measuring doors and windows in the room. Did you imagine someone going in your home recording like, oh my God, it's definitely.
I don't know how detailed you got.
Oh, no. What I'm saying is so the way that we do things at CM Heating is we record these videos so that way our technicians or our installers, so they say that a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? Well, a video is worth 1,000 pictures. So it's double intended. It's intended to give the customer an experience, right? It's intended to make sure also that I'm preparing my team coming behind me. Yeah. So it's not just the only time I do a video is where it's information that is going to need to translate to them. Yeah.
But while you're doing these other measurements, you do the helo calculation. I mean, how long do you do it quickly, or how long does that take?
Well, so because I've been doing this for a while, and what I mean by a while is I'm high volume, right? And so with that being said, when I'm looking at the windows, I can look at any window, I can look at any door pretty much right now, and I know what the dimensions are. Therefore, what I like to do, and I always tell them, just to respect your space, if you don't mind, I'll walk the perimeter of your home. I do it from the outside. Yeah, for sure. And honestly, I'm doing it out of selfish reasons too, because I want to get out of there as quickly as possible because I have 3 other customers at 8 o'clock that I need to go see. Right. And then also I'm able to see more, and they're not on pins and needles because what if he walks in the other room? And why is he walking in the room like that? It's the last person that came over to do that. Yeah. Right. And it could work on your side and it could work against you as well if, they don't want you to see whatever they don't want you to see.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. So and I want to see that anyway. So,
I don't have any crazy stories, but I know a lot of people who do. And I wouldn't have those pretty crazy stories because I'm walking the perimeter side.
Right. I guess in a certain degree, people don't have to worry about you taking anything. Like you have a stranger in your house, like there's always that back of your mind. What's that guy? What's he doing? Is he opening drawers?
Yeah.
There's just a little bit of doubt, especially if you're not with you.
Oh, well, number one, I would never put myself in position for them to not be with me. Yeah. Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure. So can you show me? Okay, now we're going. Yeah, I got you. I would never, ever put myself in the position to be questioned, right?
Yeah.
There's several reasons that I would never put myself in position to do that. But let's just say I would never do that. But, the good thing is sometimes you do need to have them with you. And sometimes maybe there is a customer that is more involved. You're working with an engineer. And this engineer just really wants to see every little detail. I might want to measure the windows from inside and even have him help hold part of the measuring tape. You know why? Because Bob, now he's collaborating with me. And now we're immersed. And now we're building this experience together. And it's hard to say no to something that you made.
Right. Very true. Very good. All right, you finish your helo calculation. I guess the next step is to sit down back at your comfortable spot, right? And kind of go through your presentation. I think you guys use the CertPath model of the Comfort Solutions Guide, or I think you probably kind of.
I'm so glad that SD taught me that for sure. Yeah. So, you start out with your better, your best, better, and some do the basic, right?
Yeah.
I like that for sure. I definitely, kind of go in that direction, but the way that I build out my estimates is a little bit different in that I know exactly what the customer is looking for.
Right.
And if you're giving your customer too much information, now you've given them something to think about.
Right.
So when I do my best, better, and basic, I just say, okay, so this one right here has the air scrubber, and it also has that new thermostat, that we're going to be putting in. The other one just doesn't have those. And then, the other one just doesn't have, the extended warranty. Which one are you liking?
And you have that look on your face.
And then the question is, okay, so which one are you liking the most? Right? Not do you want to? No, I never ask a yes or no question, ever.
Isn't the prices are in front too? Right?
The prices are in front too, and so then like, oh, you know what, Sean? I really like these options. I'm going to choose one of these, but I'm going to have to think about it. Okay, well, which one are you liking the most for now? Well, right now, I really like the one with the air scrubber. Okay, you know what? This is what we'll do. Let's pause because I have to think about if this is possible.
Sure.
What we'll do is we'll just secure this one for now. And let's say after you talk to your wife, let's say you decide you don't want to do the air scrubber. Well, now we know what we're defaulting for too, but at least we'll be able to secure the equipment in the meantime. Now, what date were you saying that you were most interested in? I don't know if we're lucky enough to get that, but I just wanted to see what date were you hoping for?
I don't know, I guess the next week or so.
Next week.
Out of heat.
Now, the question that I have for you is this. When everything is said and done, and I'm going to feel a little bit vulnerable asking you this. Is it okay if I ask you this by word? When everything is said and done, would you please be willing to at least write a review about your experience with me here today?
Yes, I would do that. You were very pleasant.
Thank you. Okay, well, let me just get a quick authorization here. Just a quick initial here.
Okay. So I've at least authorized that top one. Maybe we'll take off the ear scrubber. Yeah, at the very least, I'm giving you.
You see how much easier that is than, oh, wait, they want to go with a completely different system?
Yeah.
Right? And now we need to check inventory on that and this, that, and the third. Yeah. And then when you're dealing with your coordinator and you're saying, oh, perfect, can we just take this out? Now, if I did my job correctly and I know exactly what they need, I have no hesitation because I know how thorough I am and I know I didn't miss anything. Right? So I'm not, well, I wonder if they do go with that freaking platinum system. I wonder if they do this. No, because I know, right? And if they do decide to do that, then they'll give me a call. But our prices, on average, they're more expensive than the next guy.
Yeah.
So, I know that I'm confident. I'm confident in what they have to do. A big little, I guess I'll say, insight that's really important for any consultant to know is that your responsibility is not to convince the customer.
Yeah.
Your responsibility is to show the customer that you're convinced. If the customer is convinced that you are convinced, especially in a round that is foreign to them, then they are going to have the trust necessary. But if you're not convinced, if you don't have that energy, if you don't have that momentum, then it's going to be very difficult for having them buying.
That's right. Before we got into the options and we got pretty deep and talked about this, so backing up just a little bit. We did the measurements and all. And now sit down. What all is your presentation at that point before you get to the options? What do you talk about the company? What do you talk? I mean, is there anything that you get,
And all at the very beginning.
That's all
at the very beginning.
You say it again, or it just was at the beginning and now we're talking?
Now we're talking options. Yeah. At the very beginning, I talk to them just about, just when I go over the unbeatable promises. So as you
what are the remaining? You mentioned twice.
Okay, so as you probably already know, CM Heating, we're actually the top-rated heating and cooling company in Washington State. We're number one with PUD, and the Better Business Bureau actually just gave us their highest honor, which is the Torch Award for Ethics. And we also have more 5-star reviews than anyone else in the market. Now, the only reason why I tell you this is because it's important for you to know that you should come to continue to expect nothing less than the same level of 5-star quality and service.
Yeah.
And then also for your warranty, most folks out there, they offer a 10-year parts, 1, maybe 2-year labor warranty. We're just going to give you a 10 and 10, okay? 10-year parts, 10-year labor warranty. So that way, for at least your first full decade, you're going to have 100% peace of mind. And then we'll go into, more about the equipment, and then we'll go into the no frustration guarantee, and then, the other guarantees, and, so on and so forth, all the way to the 2-year 100% satisfaction guarantee. But I establish all that at the very beginning because in any successful date that I've been on, what I want to do is I want to make sure that I tell them about the expectations that she should have from me. And then I want to know what she's expecting as well.
Yeah.
Right. And so she knows that I'm committed.
Yeah.
Right? And I believe that relationally, when you're going in and you're working with a customer, this is very much, it has the same DNA as a date. And so this is my getting to know them, and this is them getting to know me. And so by the time we get to the close, they have all the information necessary to be able to, by the way, when we're doing this, I believe that many consultants will be able to take a deep breath and they will have less pressure if they realize that they're not selling equipment.
Yeah, not to look.
They're not selling equipment.
Yeah.
You know what we're selling? We're selling appointments. And as long as I remember that my responsibility is to sell an appointment, which is their install day, it gets a lot easier.
That's good. That's I like that. So you got to the options. You do the measurement. You get to the options right away. And then you closed me there a minute ago. What happens if we get to a point and you said $30,000 system? Maybe I thought it was going to cost 10. And Sean, holy cow, I had no idea. Systems cost this much. I know you had mentioned, financing or paying in full, and I thought, well, I might finance or something, but this is just so much money. I need to think about it. How do you respond?
I respond to it because I know that that's going to be an objection, especially when you're the highest priced in the market. I know that that's going to be an objection at the very beginning. Therefore, I choose not to put myself to that energy drain because I have another 3 customers I need to work with. So I close that at the very beginning.
Okay.
And if I don't, well, now we're going to have to go through some theatrics to go back and forth, and I'm going to have to convince them, which I have no problem, going through that and, getting to that point. Yeah. But if they had expectations for 30,000, for 10,000 on 30,000, then, the things that you could easily do is you could pivot to the reminder of the fact that, hey, you know what? I felt the same way when I got my system.
Okay.
I felt the same way when I got my system. And, the thing that really helped me is, especially Sally, the thing that I want to remind you is this is an investment that you're making in your home, right? And then also you did say that you wanted to make sure that you had more comfort during the summers. They've been getting hotter, right? And then also you were saying that, you're going to be having family over, and you want to make sure that they're comfortable. Okay. And you wanted to make sure that you had the best system overall, because we're talking about something that's going to last you, upwards of 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then also just wanted to make sure, with the company, when we do the installation, just want to make sure that it's done right the first time, right? Yeah. Okay. So now when we're looking at this, my question is, as long as we have the equipment available, right, and we were able to make this work, my only question is, at the end of it, would you please be willing to write a review about your experience with me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And by the way, I totally relate, and the crazy thing is with the inflation and everything that's going on now, it's been scary to me. Have you freaking bought groceries lately? I'm wondering who I need to call about that. And it's unfortunately the times that we're in, but I want you to know that we're committed to you every single step of the way. Is that fair enough?
That sounds fair.
And now the thing is, I don't like to have to go through that. And so that would be one of the things that I would go back in my car as I do my visiting of how things went. I would say, okay, you had this objection. How could you have done this call in such a way where you didn't have that objection? Right? Well, you could
miss something early on. If I asked it,
yeah, because at the very beginning,
something in the front end,
very beginning.
Yeah.
All you really need to let them know is, okay, guess what? Right now, we're in this unique period, right, where we're having supply chain shortages compounded by inflation. And so naturally what's been happening, the prices of everything are just going up and 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 up. And it's, kind of gotten to the point now where just the average customer that I'm seeing, they're expecting to spend, anywhere between 25 and 30,000 on a system, but, the good news here is we may have something available for you. Okay. Guess what I just did? I planted a seed.
Right.
And by the time it comes for that close, I believe that seed will be harvested.
Very good. How about, how many, I'm sure probably a number in the appointments you've done. How many other bids do you see? Someone's got the sheet of paper in front of them, some ADC heating and cooling that says it's going to be 2/3 of what your project's going to be. How do you handle those situations?
Can I see the bid, please? You said, and that was like ABC heating?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Now, okay, so tell me a little bit more about that, right?
All I know is I've got a price on here that says it's for 22, and you said 30. It really doesn't say much else.
Okay. And now, just to make sure that I'm not missing anything, just in terms of the information that I was able to provide you, and just to make sure I have everything right, what kind of system was it? Can I just take a look, just to visit it with you, just to make sure, because I want to make sure you make the best. I mean, at this point, we're friends. I just want to make sure you're making the best decisions. Is that okay?
Sure.
Then we look at it, and, at the end of the day, you'll notice that they most likely don't have the same warranties. You'll notice that there's other things that are missing. But at the end of the day, you can always bet your bottom dollar that something that we all understand from a personal level is that you end up getting what you pay for.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons, Bob, that when I go into the house, every single time I go into home, I never have the same Polo. I wash my polos. I have a fresh polo on every time. I make sure that I stay in shape, because if I'm in shape, then that's going to say something about my intentionality. I'm going to make sure that I'm articulating a certain way. You know why, Bob? Because I know that the one thing that Sally is going to know by the end of this is I want more Sean Mitchells in my home. And if CM Heating has anything to do with Sean Mitchell, and if like Sean Mitchell is any indication of what's coming behind him, then I want to do business with them. Because the last guy, he didn't even take his shoes off. He had stains. He had food in his beard, blah, blah. Do I really want to take that lower bid when I have my house on the line?
Now, in the instance of this bid one I threw at you, is we generally find out earlier in the call if they have another bid. Like I sprung it like it was at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you typically find a way to...
Our CSRs are excellent. They do such a great job. Yeah, they do such a great job. And, so that's the main thing there. But one thing that I will often do, and you'll be surprised how much information you can get from this. Come into the home, right? I just wanted to just try this on for size, but I was surprised at how effective it was. I sit down, cross my legs. What? Pop, talk to me. Tell me about why I'm here. What's going on?
Well, I just, I know our furnace is getting kind of old, and I'm just worried it's not going to get us through the fall heating season. Yeah, I just thought it doesn't hurt. I work from home. I'll just get a couple of quotes and see what this costs.
How's that been going? You said you were getting up.
Well, you're the first one. I haven't had anyone else. Or, let's back up. I already had ABC Heating come in, and they gave me a bid. But, they were fine. But I think it's a smart thing. I always learned you should get through bids.
Yeah. And honestly, I want to say thank you for your patience having us here. I know that it's quite the wait. Of course, with us being the top-rated heating and cooling company, in the state. So I just want to say thank you for that. And also, probably already are a loyal customer of ours, but if not, I just want you to know that that's definitely the aim that we have here, just to make sure that, we just start right. And so then I would just kind of go from there. I just planted several seeds. Sure. Right. And essentially what I'm saying is, ABC will not be your XYZ.
That was good. I like that. Oh, that's good stuff. All right.
Now, these are very slight things. With all these, I could have gone deeper as we kind of do these role playing. But again, it's just knowing who you are. It is also understanding your customer. The thing is that every consultant should know, especially if they've been in this industry for anywhere more than 2 years. Yeah. What they all need to understand is that all of our customers are exactly the same. They have different names, they look differently, they have different size homes, but they all feel vulnerable when you walk in the door. They all are seeking information. They all want to make sure that they can trust you. They all are looking to solve a problem. And if you understand that you're working with the same exact customer, but they just look a certain different way and they have different dynamics, then all of a sudden, this looks easier and easier and easier. And the algorithm should get better and better and better.
That's awesome. I want to dig in just a little bit more into the close part. How much is a lot of it finance? Do you do a lot of financing, or is it a mix, or not so much?
It literally depends on my customer.
Yeah.
I mean, so.
And if so, what financing product is really hot? Right? Same as cash.
Bob, I have to tell you a story. Because this changed my approach. Okay. I'm working with a retired gentleman, and I was able to get him a really good price. I'm talking a very good price. And at the end of it, he was really concerned about the payment. It was 0% interest. Bob, you've invested, you've had this home for a while, you're smart with your money, it's 0% interest. Yeah, but Sean, the payment is, $540. I'm just not really prepared for that. Okay, but the price is right. And so then I have an obsessive personality, obsessive. So if something doesn't go the way that I thought it should go, I'm going to beat it to death until I'm able to freaking, like a cow eating chut. I have 2 stomachs. I'm going to figure out why that deal didn't close, and I'm going to spit up a solution.
Yeah.
And then check this out. 3 days later, I call up Bob. And that's literally, Bob, I just wanted to let you know, by the way, thank you so much for spending time. Yeah, I loved when we talked about such and such and such and so on and so forth. I realized that, as you were looking at this, there was something that I missed, and I want to let you know that I have good news. Exactly what he said.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Exactly what he said. Well, I was looking at this and, what I'm going to do is this. Remember we were talking about the payments being, $500. Well, I found an opportunity where we're able to actually get this, 120 months, okay, for 4.5% financing. Here's the thing. There's no prepayment penalty. Your payments were only $189 a month. And there's no prepayment penalty, so you can pay it off whenever you want. Well, you know what, Sean? That makes a lot of sense. You know why that made sense to Bob? Ding, ding, ding. He's retired and he's on a fixed income. Yep. So it all depends. You have to know your audience. Yep. And so to say, oh, everyone wants to finance now, you have to know your audience. So if I'm working with a retired, I'm going to make sure that I let them know that there's no prepayment penalty for those products. I think in the state of Washington, it's illegal to have a prepayment penalty. Yeah. But I let them know that there's no prepayment penalty just in case they're really attracted to the 0% offer. But to your point, to answer it more succinctly, more people I am seeing finance than not, because even if they're sharp like you are and they're saying, hey, you know what, I want to pay cash, they don't sneeze at the idea of free money. Sure. 0% financing works very well.
That's interesting. Very good. Are you allowed to discount up to a certain point? I know you're, do you have leeway in the field to go, okay, I could cut 1,000 off or something like that? Or do you have to call the office? What do you guys, what's the process at CME? You look uncomfortable. You forget?
Oh, no. It's because I'm excited and I'm thinking about 1,000 different ways I can answer this question in a way that's going to make sure that I do it justice and I provide value to everybody. The way that it works is we have an automatic, to our discretion. Sure. Okay. We have a discretionary 5% discount that we're able to provide under certain situations. Whether or not that's 100% of the situations, or none of the situations, it's up to us. So it's great knowing that I have that. The other thing that we have is a 3% discount for cash, right? Because we don't have to invest that same, money. We're not getting charged that when people pay with a credit card or people decide to go with certain financing options, especially the 0% financing option. And, it's pretty much, that. And if I'm feeling super hyper aggressive and I just refuse to lose this deal and we're only $200 apart and I'll take it out of my commission. I am not too proud. And a matter of fact, I did that on one, deal and the customer was in sales and he goes, I would never do that. And I was like, oh, well, you know what? And how you understand how important, your business is to us and to me personal, it's personally, right? But at the end of the day, like I'm all about winning. Like I like literally like my whole mentality, my personal mentality. And this is it works in some areas and other areas I needed to learn how to make it work. Understand what I'm saying when I say that, but I care about winning and I only care about winning. Like it is who I am. Like I'm telling you right now, I only care about winning. And, when I'm talking about being a part of our team with CM Heating, I care about us winning. And so sometimes the us and I've determined that us comes before I. Us comes before I. But as long as we win, that's all that matters. And in terms of our competition, I'm Ray Kroc all the way. I don't know if you saw the movie The Founder. Good. You talked about that hose. I care nothing about my competition. I want to eat them alive. And it's their fault because they shouldn't have been my competition. Yeah. But when it comes to competition, I have absolutely no mercy. I will eat them alive. And I have so much pleasure in taking business from them. Like you have no idea the energy that I have. Like if you're my competition, then it's your fault. You should have gotten to a different league.
Love it. I do want to ask you about your follow-up process. You called Bob to find new financing, option that fit his lifestyle. You close most of the calls you go on, but the few that you don't. What's your process for when you get back to that person? Is he once that week and then maybe a week later you give him a call, and then you try to always find that the reason why they didn't close the first point and try to address it, or what's your process for that?
You always want to set it up. You don't want to have any, expectations that are unmet. You don't want to be that. No one wants to answer the call at the sales guy. No one wants to answer that. But if you're like, okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do, you said that you want to think about it. I'm going to also take some time and I'm going to do some more research for you. just to kind of see what else there might be here, because you mentioned so. So I'm actually glad that we're not rushed right now. Thank God. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check on some things, and then let's just hop on the horn. You want to do in the next couple of days, or do you want to do early next week?
Okay. That's a you.
Yeah. So now it's an appointment. I'm selling them on a different kind of appointment, but I'm still selling them on.
Excellent. You close them. You said you hit one of the parts of the process is the post close to make sure they're still feeling good about you and spending $30,000 on a new system. So what do you do for your post close to make sure your installers have everything they need, your customer is happy and feeling good about this decision? What do you do?
Our leaders at CM Heating have done a phenomenal project. They have done a great job with our process and our projects. I can't take any credit for what I'm going to tell you. All I could tell you is that John, Michael, Lyle, and Kailana, they set it up so that we have conversations with our team members before they go. We meet with them at about 7:00 just to kind of go over certain aspects of the project. And if they have any questions, then they'll let us know ahead of time in terms, there's our project managers or other, coordinators that are doing the equipment kind of curating and so on and so forth. It might just be that we have a good system. We don't really need to worry too much about that. Sure. I think that any system where your salespeople aren't able to major on just being salespeople, you might be losing an opportunity to get their best expression.
Well, how about before you leave, what do you say to that homeowner? I sign the paperwork and I'm like, oof, I like Sean. It's a lot of money, but I'm okay. We're going to go. What do you do to make sure I feel warm and fuzzy before you go on your way to go to the house?
Congratulations. I just want to say 100% congratulations. I'm surprised not only that, we had this equipment because this is the most popular, but we have the right install date. What I'm going to do is this, if you don't mind, I'm actually going to just make a quick call just to make sure that we could get one of our more senior teams on your project. I just want to make sure that I'm a little bit more hands-on, right? And the other thing is this, I'm just going to write this down. This is my personal cell phone number, okay? Same number that my mom calls me on. And so if you have any questions down the line, just let me know. And if it's okay, if I could still take you up on that offer for, having some barbecue later on, I'd love that. I'll bring the steak too. Okay. Yeah. All right. Awesome. And so I just want to say thank you so much for having me. What do you have going the rest of the day?
Transition. Have you had those barbecues?
You know what? I have, and no one's going to like what I'm going to say right now, but I was so busy because I had a goal for this year. I was so busy that I didn't have time to really do those, but that's what
I don't think I would expect most people to do. But
yeah,
but full offer and
yeah, for sure.
For sure. No, I understand. Just kind of wrapping up, what advice would you have for other, advisors, salespeople in the HVAC space? How do they become, instead of the $2 million guy, the $4 million guy? Or how do they exponentially?
Two things. I have a lot here, but I'll just do two.
Yeah.
First thing is talk walks very little and walk talks very little. Don't talk about it, walk about it. And so actually, what does that look like? If you don't have a goal for this month, if you don't know exactly what the end of this month looks like, then you're allowing the wind to take you there instead of directing the charge and knowing exactly where your sales are headed, right? You need to know exactly what the end of the month looks like. What does the end of your year look like? What are your intentions? And now that you know that that's what it looks like, what do the steps look like with you getting there? Like, are you intentional? So know what it's like. Oh man, I hope this is going to be a good month. No, it's not like that. It doesn't work like that. You literally write your paycheck. I knew that I was going to be writing an $80,000 paycheck for this month. I decided that I was going to write myself a $100,000 paycheck for this month. And guess what? Nobody else is able to put a ceiling on me but me, right? And the thing that every consultant needs to know is that you may have a floor at your job. Maybe they don't sell less than this, but nobody's giving you a freaking ceiling, right? Nobody's giving you a ceiling. So fly. if you want to, and to everybody who wants to say, well, you don't work here and you have a family, right? So that's why you're working all these hours. I will say, when you're making, you do the math. When it's, $8.6 million, I think that I'm setting myself up. If I were to do that for the next 3 to 5 years, I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to spend a lot of time with my family. Right. And again, what I'm saying is it's easy to default and judge someone and say, well, you know what, you're just putting in, all this extra work, because you have the time to do it and I don't. Well, I could give you the exact opposite. I'm doing this because I want to spend more time. Right. The other final thing is this: moments are what provide momentum. So be focused and be intentional about every single moment. The moments being majoring on the minors. Making sure that you get to know your customer, making sure that you're professional every single step of the way. All those little things are going to build to the momentum, because remember, it's death by 1,000 cuts, or it could be life by 1,000 cares. 1,000 things that you're doing the right way will get you to the place you want to be at.
I love it. Very good. Sean, thank you so much for all your time today. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you.
That's Sean Mitchell, comfort consultant for CM Heating in Everett, Washington. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. If so, please like and subscribe on YouTube. If you're on your favorite podcast player, please leave us a 5-star review. The 2 seconds you take to leave a review will help other success-minded contractors like you find us and hopefully get a little bit better, which elevates our entire mission. And please join me for future episodes. This has been The Successful Contractor, powered by Certain.
Support for this podcast comes from Trane. As a world leader in HVAC solutions, Trane Residential offers reliable, high-quality equipment and services. Named America's most trusted HVAC brand for 9 consecutive years, we've earned the title by putting our units to the test, exposing them to 5 years' worth of wear and tear in just a few months. Recently, Trane received the highest numerical score in the proprietary Life Story Research 2023 America's Most Trusted HVAC Brand Study. Trane is also a Certain Path vendor partner, which means Certain Path members receive an exceptional rebate on its purchases. For more information on the rate, visit the Certain Path member hub or contact Trane's DeVoe Ward at Strategic Accounts at tranetechnologies.com or call 469-346-1776. And for more information on Trane, visit www.trane.com. The Successful Contractor Podcast is part of the Certain Path family. Certain Path builds successful home service businesses and has for 23 years. We do it by providing contractors with a proven path to success, professional coaching, software solutions, and a member community of over 1,000 contractors just like you. Doubling your sales with a 20% net profit and an inspiring company culture is all possible. Let us show you the way. With Certain Path, success is made certain. Visit www.mycertainpath.com for more information.